back to part 4. So in this part, I'm talking about there are going to be people that are just not going to like you. So they are going to want to set you up in situations and scenarios to thoroughly just destroy, tarnish your image. Remember back when I was talking in Breaking Dawn, I did an entire part where I was talking about the fact that they want to create the illusion of something wrong. They don't even care that it's real. This is what the entire celebrity sphere is built on, if you noticed. That they want to just create stories of, what is it? It's a word, because I took journalism. They call it, it's right, I've seen it before me, but cannot pronounce it. But it's propaganda. There you go. Propaganda. They want to create something. Because if they cannot tarnish you, they want to create something. If they get there, especially, you ever notice those celebrities, they have not one story bad about them. It's very rare. But the second that there's that one good story, well, that's all we got. We're going to hold on to this one. Because this is all we got that we got on them. So let's just stick with this. And that's the way they feel. They're like, if we can get something on it, anything on them. And if you're walking with God, they're like, if I can find anything, even if it was from your past, that can tarnish your reputation, they'll try. So that's what they did. They took a photograph of her. The guy was trying to kiss her and had the press taking photos. Then they turned around, and after that, they had brought, they took her and told her to go into this room to change clothes because she was trying to leave. And while she was half dressed, they came in there and set the press directly in there while she didn't have no clothes on. So they created a frenzy. And this is what the enemy will do. Because if he cannot get you authentically, he gonna create something to make and tarnish your name, because he can't have people looking at you as the standard. So he has to blow up something that was minuscule. Anything. And he will take that minuscule thing and blow it out of proportion to make out all kinds of confusion. Because why? You're being exalted and the enemy is afraid of you. So he'd rather destroy your credibility than to have you gain momentum. So be prepared for that as well. But when God is in the mix, he will protect you just like a security guard would. But you have to be walking with God. He'll protect you. Some of your spouses are going through this right now. There are things that they going through behind closed doors that don't nobody know about. And God's protecting them in the midst of it because he's trying to protect the sanctity of where he's about to position you. No one understands that. I was listening to, was it Boha Christ? It was somebody, and they were making the point of saying that some of your latter-day spouses in this season, they are reaping what they sowed in the season that they were not walking with God or were mixing their walk with God with something else. And we talked about that in the Adam being returned to the garden, and Jacob and Hercules and Samson. In them coming back to God, there are things that they had to walk away, sacrifice, and lose. And some of them are going through some major losses even right now because of the fact that God had to purify and cleanse out the things that were not of God. Thank you, Trust and Obedience and Imagine Ministries, for what you said. Because they needed to be purified and cleansed and resurrected. But in that, God had to pull a bunch of stuff out of them. It ain't feel good. It ain't feel good. But we ain't have to see that mess. Some of y'all was begging to get to where your God ordained spouse was, and God was saying, if you were there and you really knew what was going on, you would be happy you are right where you are. You would be so happy you right where you are. Because you do not know what they having to go through to get to you. If you had to go through a dark, murky, nasty wilderness, you think they ain't gonna have to go through a dark, murky, nasty wilderness to separate themselves from the stuff that they were involved in to get to you? What were you thinking you living in? And depending on how deep that mess was, it's going to depend on how nasty it is that they gonna have to go through to clarify. But why does the Lord allow that? He's allowing them to go through that in secret. So that when he re-exalts the both of y'all, because you're both going to be exalted. And I've been feeling this in the spirit of my spirit and the knower of my knower, that there's a level that God is preparing to exalt to you. Just getting the way your spouse is an exaltation. And God's laughing at you because he's saying, where your spouse is, I'm about to exalt him. So it's going to be a double exaltation. You're going to be exalted, and then he's going to be exalted. And in his exaltation, you don't even know what his exaltation is going to look like because you don't know where he's being exalted. God, he told you that. And when you realize where he's being moved, you're going to be like, oh, snappy. That's why it took so long. Because he wasn't preparing me for the level of just being next to him. He was preparing me for where he's exalting him. Yeah. Yeah. Exaltation works both ways. So, with that being said, you may have your moments, because the enemy ain't gonna stop being the enemy, and he's gonna nitpick. So because he's gonna nitpick, especially if you're in the fishbowl of celebrity or influence or what have you, there are influencers that ended up on the media. I'm telling you, you in the fishbowl, okay? You may have people that are talking about you. YouTube has its own gossip news lines. You got Pop Star. You got all these other places. You got Pop Star. You got all these other places and websites and all that kind of stuff that they'll talk about your influencers on YouTube too. You got the gossip media headlines that'll talk about it. These YouTube podcasts talk about them. So it doesn't mean that they escaping it either. So understand that you may find yourself, there may be moments where people be talking about you. And then on the flip side of that, let's look at Heather Lindsay and her husband, who have been talked about, and they try to expose them for all kinds of stuff. Last I checked, their ministry looking just about fine to me, from what I can tell. Don't mean people ain't talking about them. Because the enemy always going to have his little people that are going to be a thorn in your side. That's what the press is to celebrities. So you think that there ain't going to be people in the Christian community going to be talking about you too. You will be persecuted for being who you are. You will be. Just let it go. Release it. It's going to be all right. it is what it is. But God is allowing it for his greater glory. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, they had to get together. They're going to be moments that your press team going to have to get together and get ahead of certain stories to fix the problem. And these things happen just because the enemy doesn't want you to get to your exaltation point. Trying to send a hit into your family, trying to send a hit that's going to knock you off of your kilter. Why? Because you're in birthing season. Esther's Way did a video the other day talking about you're in birthing season. I've seen a lot of people talking about in birthing season. A lot of y'all know y'all in birthing season because you've been in the pain, the cramps, the pain. I don't think it's coincidental I fell the other day. I think that fall was a sign of my birthing because the pain of it is a sign you're birthing into something. And God's about to do something that you were not expecting. And it's going to happen quickly and suddenly. So after that, she had to make a decision as to what she wanted to do. Whether she wanted to take that position. For some of you, and this can go both ways in relation to exaltation, because in both films there was something that happened. It was set up to embarrass her just before she took the position as the new queen, because she went from princess to queen. Because her grandmother stepped down. It was about destroying her name. There are levels of exaltation that you're going to go through. Like I just literally said, I feel it in my knower and my knowing that some of y'all just been pressed to get to the marriage part. Can I get to the marriage and then I can relax? And God's like, this is so funny. I am not going to let you relax when you get to the marriage. You're going to have a season, but guess what? I'm exalting them. So that's the double exaltation. This girl went from becoming princess to becoming queen within 5 years. Esther went from being queen to saving her people in 5 years? So there is a level of exaltation that is going to come, and there are going to be enemies that are going to try to tarnish your exaltation, throw mud on you, and destroy your reputation and name before you can even take the position. But see, God is in the season of now. I'm rendering judgment on those that are trying to destroy you and have been trying to destroy you, your spouse, so on and so forth. And I'm going to talk about these spouses for a minute, okay? Because I'm going to temporarily move over to the other Princess Diaries, where they were trying to position her to be married to a man. God is trying to position you, especially those waiting on kingdom marriage, to be married to someone that is going to be able to help you carry the anointing that the Lord has designated for you to walk into. They are humble. And they understand the assignment that God is giving them to carry. And they are proud to carry it for the Lord. But God had to prepare them because of the level of exaltation that's going to happen. He had to strip, change, transform. In the second Princess Diaries, they had to find a person that was a proper suitor for her in order for her to take the queenship. God had to find the proper suitor for you. He knew. You may not have known, but he knew who that suitor was going to be. He knew who was going to carry you. So you pretty much have the understanding of your exaltation. It's more than just a thing of just I'm being exalted in this season. There are levels to this. Some, you are God's princess. You will be your spouse's queen. And with that, there will come different levels and different people wanting to pull you down because of jealousy, envy, desiring dominance and intimidation and all kinds of stuff because they see the purity of God upon you. And they will come at you in whichever way they possibly can. And I remember somebody making the point of mafia tactics where they don't come after you. They come after ones and things that you love to try to halt and hinder you. And some of your spouse has been dealing with that. You've been thinking it's just, maybe it's just, no. It's that. And they have to trust in God that when God's going to remove that barrier, they'll be able to get to you. And you have to trust that too. So when God clears this up, Loving Miracles with Ray, she did a word recently saying that the thing that's been barring the communication is they had to clean up some things with their previous relationships, cutting off all of the counterfeits, cutting off and making sure, not just cutting them off or ghosting them or what have you. They have to systematically take care of it so it does not pop up when you come into the picture. You're at the gate. They at the gate too, but they can't open it until go back and look at your husband's at the gate. Word. He can't exalt you until all things are cleared up. Or you'll have scenarios like this in this film, in both situations, when she was being exalted to princess, they created that scenario where she was associated with that guy and then they messed her up to make her look like she was out here doing all kinds of stuff. Then in the one where she was being prepared to be exalted as queen, the guy, yet again, it was another guy, was being used to lure her into relationship with him. But the problem was the guy actually wanted to be in relationship with her. He was being used for his family's lineage. It was literally a Romeo and Juliet scenario. And in the end, the guy ended up renouncing, I think, his personal throne with his uncle because of the fact that he was in love with her. Your God-ordained spouse will release certain things, and I said this in another word, he's going to release certain things for you. Some things he's going to do to make sure that you are exalted to the position in which you are meant to be coronated or whatever it is too. But God knew there may be people that want to be suitors to you. And if you was out here, and this is why the Lord hasn't had you out here. Some of these people are out here right now. They're talking about you should be out here going and living your life, dating and doing all that type of stuff. We too close for you to be out here getting a brand new brain and deciding, oh, I'm going to go out here and travel. I'm going to go out here and be out here where other men can court me and all this kinds of stuff. Because guess what? You are a magnet right now. Because you're so close to exaltation, you're a magnet right now. And the enemy just wants you to be out there. He would love for you to be at the business event, traveling the world right now. Because then you're exposed and the enemy can send 15 different suitors to you and be like, hey, how you doing? Why? Because the enemy wants to set you up just like they tried to set her up in this thing. To take photographs of her kissing the other guy. To take photographs of her right at the same time that she's supposed to be getting married to the other guy. Because the enemy wants to counterfeit and ruin. Did I not say in the word, not only did I say it in Temptations, I said it in Breaking Dawn. The enemy wants to create an illusion just enough to destroy your image so that you can't look like a child of God. But God's about to vindicate you. He's going to vindicate you. He's going to vindicate your spouse. But you got to go through the process, the pressure, and the birthing in this season. Some of you are literally birthing your spouses in this season. That's why God, you've been sitting there wondering, why in the world God got me sitting here waiting in this festive season? The other day, he showed me holding pattern. I said, what the heck am I on a holding pattern for? And then the Lord let me know. You're birthing your spouse. Because right now, that's what he needs. Go back and watch the word I did called ram in the bush. When you're coming up one side of the mountain, he is too. But it's getting rough on his side. And you got to be in a stasis. Because you sitting right there at the top talking about where he at. God, what's taking so long? I'm already up here. What's up? And he's dealing with the climate, the weather on his side of the mountain. He dealing with the people. He dealing with the fact that the oxygen level is hard on his side. And he's like, what in the world? He up there with you too. He just ain't got to the point that you're at yet. And God got his angels like, he gonna get here. He's about to be that ram in the bush. But you gotta be patient because he coming. He's coming. But you gotta prepare yourself and be ready because you both about to be exalted. Because y'all gonna meet on the plateau, but then you're both gonna be exalted. And you got to go through the process. He's gonna need a little bit of a resting period. And so you. Before he puts you where he really wants you to go. And when God shows you where he really wants to take you, it's gonna make perfect sense. Why it took so long. Because some of y'all don't have the whole picture, but now your God-ordained spouse does. Because now that he's walking with God to the degree that he's supposed to be, God could show him the other half of the picture that he didn't quite show you. But because of where he is at, he had to show him. Why it had to be you. Why he's exalting y'all in the way. Why he had to take him through that level of pruning that he's taking him through right now. Because of where he's about to put you both. The exaltation isn't just you to him. It's you to him and then both of you to where God needs you to be. And you may not be privy to exactly what that is. I think I know what mine is. But that's just part of the story. I don't know what's going to happen after that. So be prepared for the exaltation. Whatever God showed you was yours. You got to be prepared that that's about to happen. And when it does, what's that going to look like for you? Get ready. Because God's about to do it. So I hope this blesses you. It gives you wisdom. It gives you understanding. It blesses you with the grace to be able to walk into and through this experience. I think I covered everything in this exaltation, because I can't really think of much of nothing else that I needed to go over, aside from the fact that she had to go to the dinner. Some of you are getting invited to the table. The Lord showed me in a dream recently being seated at a table at a restaurant. Some of you are being prepared to be seated at the feast table, where you are about to be positioned for the manifestation. And when you are sat at the table, oh, can I share that part? I'll say this much, that your husband's position is going to afford you the seat at the table. One. And then once you are seated at the table, understand there are going to be people around you that aren't all godly people. Some of them are snakes in disguise. But you're going to have to be wise to walk with your spouse and trust his maneuvers when he tells you how to operate at these tables. God had to take you through this process. For one, for some of the places you're going to, he had to take the starry-eyedness of you being enamored with the people that you're going to be sitting at tables with. But he also had to prepare you to be able to sit at these tables, giving you the manners, giving you the etiquette, giving you the language. My coach talks about language all the time, to be able to sit at these tables. For the rooms, the realms, and the situations and scenarios that he's taking you into. Preparation. 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 Because you're going to have to sit and you're going to have a level of etiquette with these people. I used to have a friend who, a few years ago, she was trying to tell me there's certain habits that I had when I eat that ain't going to work for where I'm being taken. And I have to be aware of that. And I know what the mental trigger is to why I eat that way. For years, I didn't want to be sitting around the people that I was sitting around, but had to eat around them anyway. So I would eat quickly, which usually had me stuffing my mouth full of food so that I could be done eating quick. So with that, it became a habit. And she was like, "You still do that. Stop. You put too much food in your mouth." Which only reminded me of the fact that my own mother told me when I was a child, we used to call you fats because of the fact that your cheeks were always full of food, because every time we fed you, you wouldn't swallow the food. I was doing that when I was a baby. But when you were a child, you thought as a child, but now that you are grown. So I have to consciously remind myself when I'm eating not to stuff my mouth full of food. Because sometimes I be hungry, I be trying to eat real fast. Sometimes I be trying to get away from the people and I'm around. So I be trying to eat real fast. But I'm going to be sitting in situations and scenarios where it's going to be like, you're going to be able to sit down and you're going to eat. And you have to eat like you got some common sense. Meaning, eating gradually. Eating like you got time to sit there and eat. Not stuffing your mouth full of food just because all the stuff is on the plate. And you want to bite of this, and this. If you can't figure out how to do it in a way that it's going to be nice to the etiquette of you chewing, then take this and this, and eat that. And then take this and this, and eat that. And take this and this, and eat that. Because what ended up happening is she was at the dinner and she had been eating, she took a spoonful of the ice cold, icy something thing that was in a container, and she went and took it, and she was like, oh my goodness, this is so cold. And everybody else started reacting, and because she was the princess, they were like, oh, everybody do what she does. Pause. Some of you, because of your position, people are going to follow your every move. These people were just mimicking what she did. Some of you are going to have that level of influence, so you're going to have to be careful of what you speak. You're going to have to be careful of what you're doing. You're going to have to be careful. And some of you, like her character, some of you may not be the type that has a finesse about yourselves. She tripped a lot. She caused issues. She made everybody else fall, and the waiters and all that kind of stuff fall, and all that kind of stuff. And the enemy loves stuff like that because that ruins the whole scenario. But see, when it happened, it actually showed that she was real. And her grandmother ended up pulling her to the side and saying, you should have seen what I did on my first dinner. And she's like, oh, so I'm good? She's like, you're good. So you have to understand, yes, you're being positioned, and there are things that are going to happen, but you have to have the right people around you. There may be people around, maybe your spouse, maybe the people that are surrounding you that maybe they may be irritated, but the person closest to you is going to be able to give you that wisdom. Hey, you're new. I get it that you're new. You're not going to know everything when you're coming into this. And you're not. You're about to experience a sudden shift that's going to position you that not everything's going to be as you assume it to be. And you're going to have to adjust. All she was doing this entire film was adjusting. Adjusting. It's a level of adjustment. You're going to have to adjust where you're going. You're going to have children, and you're going to have to show them how to adjust. It's a process. That's why your exaltation took time. Process. Relax. So, this is the end of